These are all the books I read. Well, some of the books I read in the month of October. I'm gonna move them to the side here. So let's do my October wrap up. Hey y'all, welcome back or welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sheldina. I'm gonna go ahead and make this quick. So I'm gonna start with the books that I don't have physically first. So if you see me looking down, it's because I wrote them here so I could remember. But I read If She Says Yes by Tasha Harrison. I already spoke about this one in one of my videos, but if you haven't seen it, it follows a man who came back to town to help plan his best friend's wedding, and he has always had a crush on his best friend's mom. So, you know, they kind of like start having this relationship, so to speak. And so it was fun. It was a good time. I enjoyed it. It was a very short read. It wasn't nothing too crazy about it. I also read God of Malice by Rena Kent. I spoke about this one as well. This one was a no for me because the beginning, like how she met the guy, he sexually assaulted her and then kept forcing himself into her life. And then she like learned to like love it. And I didn't love that for her. And so I didn't love that book at all. I won't go too much into it because I already spoke about it, but again, it's enough for me. I read One of Our Own by Lucinda Berry. This was actually the second book that I read by Lucinda Berry. So this one followed, I don't know what the exact term would be for her, but she is one of those people that you would call if you're contemplating suicide, and she's trying to like, you know, talk you down off of it. She gets a call from a teenager who lets her know what she's planning. And then, you know, she's making conversation, and then the girl tells her that, you know, something happened at my school. She asks, what school did you go to? And it just happens to be her son's school. So she felt like some kind of personal kinship to this girl. And so she gives her personal number, and she's like, hey, if you ever need me, call me. I would much rather you call me than make a life-altering decision. So just call me. And so it follows from there. It was also a short, quick read. I want to say that one is an audiobook only. I could be wrong, but I believe it's an audiobook only. It was 4 hours on audio. So quick read. I enjoyed it. Lucinda Berry, you know, I mean, the first book I read was good. This one was good. And I've heard she writes great books. So that's it. I read Captivated by Danger by India Carter. This one is the second book in the Danger series. This one follows the brother Diesel. So the first one was about Diamond. This one is about Diesel. I believe the third one is about Declan, which I'm like curious to see what happens there, because to my understanding, he's in a relationship in the first 2 books. So I was like, okay. But maybe it follows him and that same girl, because I think they're on and off again, but I don't know. But anyway, Captivated by Danger follows Diesel. Their family's like, pretty wealthy. They're a pretty wealthy family, but they all kind of do their own thing. And I forgot what he does. He works with math, I think. I believe he works with math and numbers, I want to say. But I forgot exactly what he did. But anyway, it was a good time. I really like the storyline. I like how both him and his brother Diamond fell for girls who lived in the same small town. Even though they're from New York and the girls are from Florida, I like that. And so I'm like, look at these girls. Citrus Grove girl, bringing them to their knees. I loved it. It was a good time. I would recommend it. I don't think it's considered a dark romance. However, they have like a dom sub relationship. Both boys do with their partner. And I want to say the third one probably does as well. I haven't read it again, but it was a good time. I really loved that one. That was one of my favorite reads. I read The Vanish in Half by Britt Bennett. This one felt unfinished for me. So it follows two sisters who are very light skinned. They're white passing. They moved away from their small town, and when they left, one of the sisters, then they're twins, I'm sorry. One of the twins left. That twin, she left her twin and went to live life as a white woman. She was like, why shouldn't I? You know what I mean? Like, if I could get away with it, why shouldn't I? And so it just wasn't, it didn't work for me. It didn't work. I thought it was going somewhere different. And I don't like how it jumped around. At first I thought we were following the siblings timeline, but then it kind of shifted to like fast forward like 10 or so years into the future. I don't know, but it wasn't like, the timeline wasn't going back and forth. It just was here and then we were 10 years in the future. And that jump felt odd to me. But also I didn't get the point of it. Like, I didn't get what the author was trying to accomplish with that. That one twin lived life as a black woman and one lived life as a white woman. I just didn't get it. Not a bad read, just wasn't a favorite of mine. I also read The Family Experiment by John Mars, and that one is actually, I think, the last book in his, like, I want to say it's called Out of World series. John Mars writes speculative thrillers, so there's kind of like this dystopian feel to him. And he has like a lot of books in that. I think like 4 or 5, and that happened to be the last book. And I read it first. I did not know, but I got it from my library, so I was gonna read it, okay? And so some of the previous books was mentioned in that book. It's about an experiment being done where people want kids, but they can't necessarily have kids or can't afford to go through IVF. So they enter this experiment where the world is watching them. It's a reality show, essentially, where they're given this like AI child, and they have to watch the child grow up. And I believe at the end of it, they get to decide to keep their child, or they can take the money if they win. They can take the money and start their own family. Now, the child progresses through life quickly just to get them a feel of what childhood would be like in real life. So it starts off at the baby, but then they grow up like 3 months, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, and then they become 18 eventually, and then they decide. I'm assuming they get to keep them at the year they are now. I think that's how it was. But there was a lot of other things happening. I thought it was well done. I really liked the premise of that book. I thought that was something that we don't ever see in thrillers. It wasn't very thrilling in that it had my heart racing. I didn't feel that, but I still thought it was well done. And I really enjoyed it. And I really like John Mars. I follow him on Instagram and I really like him. I just happen to have not read one of his books until now, and I know I will continue to read his books. But yeah, it was a good time, and I would recommend that book as well. But again, it's not very thrilling. I mean, you do want to know what happened, and you want to know who won the competition, but it wasn't that anxiety. But it was good. It was a good time. I also read Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. I don't believe I've talked about that one. That one is a dark romance. It follows a serial killer woman. I forgot her name. I forgot what she calls herself, but he calls her Blackbird and she calls him Butcher. He's also a serial killer as well. I believe they're both serial killers who kill serial killers. I believe that's what it was about. I almost wanted it to be darker. Like, I thought it was good, but I wanted them to live in the world of unaliving serial killers more. It may just be something wrong with me, but I wanted it to be darker. And even when they got together, once they got together and the relationship developed, I felt like we didn't get to see them do any kind of serial killer activity anymore. It just became about their relationship, which is fine. But even their relationship wasn't dark to me. Like, they weren't really exploring dark themes. He was very tender with her, which I loved. but out of the bedroom. But in the bedroom, he was still it wasn't very dark. I don't know. I wanted it to be more dark. Like, I would even say it's more of a romantic suspense than a dark romance. But even for a romantic suspense, I wanted them to be like, you know, and it just didn't happen as much as I thought it would be. But other than that, I thought it was a good time. I really enjoyed it. Would I recommend it? Yes. I can't wait to read the second book of the series, which is what, Light and Lark? Is it Light and Lark? Something and Lark. It might be Light. Lane? I forgot. Either way, I had fun reading it. I also read Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. This one is a podcast element. This girl was accused of killing her best friend. She forgot the night in question, so she couldn't even tell him whether she did or didn't, but there wasn't enough evidence to convict her of a crime. However, this man starts doing a podcast about her and trying to uncover the truth of whether she did or didn't do it. And she was all for him doing it because she was like, you know what, if I did kill my best friend, I deserve to be in prison. I genuinely don't remember. And people thought she was lying. They thought she remembered and she just didn't know. She was like, I'm gonna help you. The premise was there. The book was just so slow. And people say do it on audio, like it's fantastic on audio. I would say it's very mid on audio. It just felt kind of there. I don't know. Like, I feel like the audio helped in that it was so slow, and I couldn't imagine reading it with my eyeballs because it would have been even slower, and I would have been like, yeah, no. However, like the actual, like the narrators were just okay. Like, it wasn't anything spectacular. The only thing I would say is, like, when they were doing the podcast element, obviously, like, hearing it makes it sound like you're listening to a podcast. That's the only good thing about it. Other than that, I thought the book was good. It just was so slow that I didn't think it was worth the hype that it gets. That's all I'm gonna say about that. And then I read The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. One of my followers on here, Poppy, she said that she loved that book. She had asked me if I read it, and I said no, and I hadn't read it at the time, and I did, and oh my God, I loved it. It's actually now one of my favorite Tiffany D. Jackson books. I think I've read like 4 or 5 other books by hers, but that one is up there. It follows a biracial girl who is white passing. She goes to school where they have a segregated prom, where the kids think she's white. Obviously, her dad is white, and he is the only parent in her life, and he wants her to live life like she's white to make it easy for her. Really, I think it's to make it easy for him, but anyway, so she's always straightening her hair to fit in, and then one day at gym, they were running, it started raining, and her hair like poofs up and it's curly and it's kinky and it's beautiful, but then the kids are like, is she black? And so they immediately like start bullying her for her blackness. And so it's a Carrie retelling. She has magical powers, or would you call it magic? I don't know. But we kind of know how Carrie goes. I thought that book was fantastic. Fantastic. That was actually the first book I rated 5 stars this month. It was so well done. I really liked the conversation that the kids were having to have about race, but then even in race, they had conversations about colorism, about how, you know, the world saw her as one way, but then immediately once they found out she was a different way, she was treated a different way by the black kids and the white kids. It was fantastic. There was also a podcast element or a docuseries element to it, because whatever was happening to Maddie, I believe her name was, it happened in the past. So the present was someone creating a docuseries about what happened in the town, what happened to the kids, what happened to Maddie. Does she have powers? Does she not? It was fantastic. I said that about 3 or 4 times, but it was so well done. I really enjoyed it. I really love Tiffany D. Jackson's writing. I have nothing more to say about it other than if you haven't read it, go read it. Do it. I also read Not So Perfect Strangers by L.S. Stratton. I don't believe I talked about this one, but it follows 2 women who meet by chance, and one of them was like, let's get rid of each other's husband. And, you know, she kind of take matters into her own hand. The other one did not agree, but she take matters into her own hands anyway. And it kind of goes from there. And I thought it was good. It was predictable. However, yeah, it was nothing that blew me away. But would I recommend it? Yeah, I would. I thought it was fun. It just was predictable, which kind of sucks in a thriller. I also read Crypt of the Moon Spider by Nathan Ballingrud. I actually read this one to prepare me for the second book because I got sent the second book. I believe it's already out, but when I tell you that book was so short, however, I was like, what the fuck did I read? It follows this girl who goes to the moon to get surgery on her brain for, I want to say, her mental problems. I think that's what they played it as. And I was about to say the spider, the surgeon there is inserting spiders into their brains and like essentially making them do things. It's like the spiders are then controlling the people. No. Listen, I read it if you want to. I honestly can't even tell you how I feel about it because I still don't know what the hell happened in that book. I was like, huh? No. I also read You Watched in Silence by H. Lee Justine. That one is an arc. It releases, I believe, November 8th. It follows a girl who gets a job to be a nanny for an influencer. The influencer had gotten canceled for something happening to one of her fans. So she hired another fan to be her nanny because she didn't want anybody who was out to get her or someone who had canceled her to be, you know, her nanny. So she figured, who is better to take care of my kids than somebody who loved me? So she got a fan, but the fan has ulterior motives as to why she's coming to her house and watching her kids. I did not see the twist coming. It was very atmospheric. I felt like there was a little like, ooh, element to it. Like, you know, it felt creepy, but there were a lot of times where I just felt like nothing was happening. And I wouldn't say nothing because things were happening. However, it felt unnecessary what was happening, and it felt like we just wasn't moving within the plot. It was just okay. Like, not a bad read. Would I recommend it? Sure, maybe. But that's all I have to say about that. I read Dana and the New Nigeria. I read part 1, 2, and 3. They're very short. I think like 40 pages each or something. It follows a young girl. I believe she's like 8, 9, or 10. I forgot. She lives in Nigeria, obviously, and she is learning about Nigerians' past and present. And also there was more to it than that. Like, we got to see her do things with her friends as far as like sports go, school. Like, it was a good read, and I would definitely recommend it, especially if you have kids. I would say it's middle grade down. Like, yeah, it's a good time for kids. Like, it's a good book for children. Yeah. I read The Tenant by Frida McFadden, and I actually really enjoyed that one. It follows a couple who the husband gets fired from his job, and they get a tenant to live with them to help pay for their rent. And weird things start happening in their house, and he starts blaming the tenant. He doesn't know if it's her or not doing these things. And obviously, if we know Frida, we know there's gonna be a twist. Her twists don't always make sense, but I feel like this one did. I felt like we could see and align it and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I could see it. Because some of her twists, I'm like, this wasn't a good plot twist. You were just being deceptive as the author. And to me, that doesn't make a good plot twist. But this one, it made sense. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I also read, well, I DNF'd A Bigger Picture by Vanessa Nakate. I already spoke about this, so I won't go into it, but it is a memoir or a manifesto to climate change. I read also Stella by Starlight. This one follows a young girl named Stella. She, like, I believe at night or close to night when it was getting dark, she saw KKKs roaming her town. So she went home and told her dad, and they were preparing for that to come. And, you know, I thought, okay, we're gonna get like conversations of this. It really was there to tell you the time period that they were in, because there wasn't too much conversation more about the KKK. I would say that there were a little bit, but not too much. Like, the focus was more on Stella and her learning, really. And so I believe they like diagnosed her as dyslexic, or at least they were assuming she was. She has trouble writing and putting words together, and she just kind of navigates life and do that. I would recommend it. I would recommend Sharon Draper's books. I actually would recommend it as a middle grade book. But overall, it was a good book, well written. Yeah. I also read The Chaperone by M. Hendricks. I spoke about this in another video, so I won't get too into it, but it's a dystopian novel that follows young women who have a chaperone. Once they get the first period, they are not to be alone. Yeah. I also spoke about this. This is The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston, so I won't go too into it, but she falls in love with a ghost. She's a ghostwriter who sees ghosts, and she falls for a ghost. I read Out on the Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. Spoke about this as well. Won't go into it, but I did love this and enjoyed it. Pardon My Frenchie by Farrah Rashan. I spoke about this as well. I liked it. I did. I didn't love it as much as I thought I would, but it was too much focus on dogs, but I spoke about it already. I read Daphne by Josh Mellerman. I DNF'd Daphne by Josh Mellerman. I think I spoke about it as well, so I won't go into it, but yeah. And this one, y'all saw me get in one of my book hauls, Hold My Girl by Charlene Carr, but I didn't speak about this. And this one and Blood, what is it? Weight of Blood is my two favorite reads in the month of October. I absolutely love this one so much. It follows two women who both go through IVF to conceive, but only one has the baby to term. She is raising the baby, obviously it's her daughter, but then they find out that their eggs were switched, and so now they're going through this custody battle over who's the real mom. And I put it in quotes because while I liked the conversations they were having, I was like, just share the custody of the baby. There isn't a certain amount of people who can love a child. So I was like getting mad throughout the book. I was like, please just share the custody, move on. But it's not so simple. I mean, if somebody came in today and told me my child isn't my child and the other person want to take them, how would I feel? You know what I mean? And so I get it. But this was well done. I loved how she wrote this book. I loved it. I thought it was thought-provoking. I thought it was well thought out. I thought she did a fantastic job writing this. It invoked so many emotions in me, and I would recommend this 100%. 100%. I also read The Secret Neighbor by Rebecca Taylor. I spoke about this one in one of my videos already, so I won't go into it, but I liked it. I also read The Other Mistress by Shanora Williams. I don't remember if I spoke about this. It follows a woman who finds out her husband is cheating on her, and she gets with one of his mistress to off the other mistress. I actually wanted more drama throughout the book. I did not say, I listened to it on audio, and I felt like the person who narrated it made the main character unreliable. Like her voice made the FMC sound unreliable. And I didn't like that. I think if you're gonna read this book, read it physically, not on audio. And then I read The Three of Us by Or Agbaji Williams. I spoke about this already. It's a literary fiction. I didn't like it, but it's up on my page somewhere. And I also read The Between by sheldinareads. I spoke about this already, but it's kind of like he's in the between. He's neither here nor there. Yeah. It took me way too long to get into the book, so I can't even tell you how I feel about it. I also read The Woman on the Ledge by Ruth Mancini. This one follows a woman who gets arrested, and they're trying to determine whether she killed a woman or not, because she happened to be in the same building. She was the only one in the building when this woman died or jumped or whatever off of a building. Like she fell from the building or was pushed from the building, who knows? But they're trying to figure out if she did it or not. I really like the way the book turned. And I don't know if I want to call it a plot twist, but I like the turn it took. That's all I'm gonna say about that. I really thought, you know, there was some moments where it lost my attention in the beginning. I was like, snooze. But then once we started getting into it, I was like, oh, I'm really liking this now. So overall, I enjoyed it. I really liked the way the turn it took, where Ruth went with it, I would say. And lastly, I read Ring Shout by, I forgot who it is, Pagelli. I forgot what the full name is. But that one, I really like the premise. It's about a woman and her friend or family who is hunting KKKs. And it's almost like she calls them clans, but then she says when they turn into a monster, they become Ku Klux. So they're hunting Ku Klux. The premise was there. The execution wasn't for me. I didn't really care for that book, honestly. And I think I read it twice. No BS. I think I got about 80% through and I read it again because I was like, am I missing something? And I was like, I think I'm missing something. I'm not paying enough attention, because that one I listened to on audio. And I read it again and I was like, no, it's just not doing it for me. It just wasn't executed in a way that I enjoyed it. But yeah, those are all the books I read. I think that was like 28 books. I'm not counting the 2 that I DNF'd. So I think 28 books I read in the month of October. That was the most I've read in a single month. Yeah, I was having a time, but not really. I was reading a lot, but I wasn't enjoying too much of the books I was reading. But I did say already I was kind of in a book slump, and book slump for me is kind of like feeling meh about every single book I read. And really, I should have stopped at like 10 books because I was just putting myself through trauma, it felt like. But if I did, I wouldn't have like read Hold My Girl or The Weight of Blood. And I'm grateful I read those, because honestly, those 2 books will stick with me. I really enjoyed them so much. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe. And as always, happy reading. Bye.